are live. We are live. क्या कर रहे हैं?
Hello and welcome, guys.
Yes.
Welcome to Bulls, Bear and Banter. Today we have
Mahima ji हमारे साथ हैं.
to add to the banter.
Yeah.
Of course, all the retail sales data, and that helps getting Mahima's perspective. What were the other topics that we were supposed to
To do a multiple
Metals.
metals also. But to begin with,
fantastic rally in metals. Nykaa promoter selling.
No, not the promoter. Early investor.
early
selling.
investor.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Banga.
apologies. My
Banga
understanding
family,
was,
right?
Yes.
was promoter.
Yeah, but let's start with retail. What's happening in retail, Mahima?
What's happening? I think एक ही the only V2 retail stood out for me because good same store sales growth as well as good revenue growth. Their guided range was 45 to 50%. They've done 51%. So good there. Plus guidance अच्छा है. The interesting part today that I found was they came and told our channel saying that if valuations are correct, if we get the right value, we'll be raising funds via QIP. Also raise our guidance of adding more stores. They've guided for 100 stores per year. They'll raise that guidance and use the money to add more stores and pay off their debt. So that was an interesting takeaway from the conversation.
Have too much debt? My understanding
not
was
too
they don't
much,
have
not too much, but majorly in terms of store expansion. So that was an interesting takeaway. So yes, that's about V2 retail, but bazaar style. We had a discussion in the morning.
Yes.
And
who has won? Sorry.
For the first
That
time,
debate-
Sajeet sir and I were a team, and we were against Alex today. And Alex
who
was saying
won?
that
Sorry, but
we
who
won.
won?
It's
Okay.
down
Yeah, it's
4%,
down.
I think, as we speak.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's couple of things which is happening in retail is that Q1 is traditionally a weak quarter from a point of view of it's not a festive quarter.
It's not a festive quarter,
but
except for Eid, but that also got pushed
that
for
Eid,
Q4.
Yeah, means means it came on the end of March, so the entire shopping and everything went there. But I believe that shouldn't be the only thing, because you had Bakrid which came in at the end of May, and that should have seen good amount of traction for at least Star Bazaar basically. And the reason I say that is that look at the kind of migration that happens during that period of time of labors. Star Bazaar is Bazaar style is in that segment where you can buy 2 to 3 items within a budget of 1,000 rupees.
Exactly.
Right. So if you look at Bombay or any other area, there was a huge migration that happened towards from the middle of May onwards to the respective homes, which is in either in Bengal or in Orissa or in Bihar or Chhattisgarh, or that area, that belt. And bazaar style is prominent in that area, actually, in that sense. So ideally their sales should have been much higher, but the sales numbers are good, actually. I'm told 37% jump in sales, which is there.
Bazaar, yes.
But what was disappointing was the EBITDA margins, 180 bips expected to come down
as per JM
Financial, which is negative in that sense for bazaar style.
Yes.
And that is why the stock is down 4%. So which basically means that there is a lot of discounting which is happening. We saw the discounting happening in D-Mart as well, Avenue Supermart as well.
Yes.
I don't think we too had that kind of thing.
No, they said that they've maintained their average selling price, which is at around 300 odd rupees. So discounting has not been much for them. But I think Avenue Supermarts though also, because what they guided was that they will do around 18 odd % of growth. 18 to 20% is what, but they came at 16%. So I think the street is disappointed because of that. So we'll have to see as to how.
But discounting is also there, right? In Avenue.
Discounting,
in
yes, of course, because of the whole quick commerce story that is playing against them. I think one more thing that is interesting is yesterday there was a CLSA note which was saying that rural is now probably petering out, right? We're seeing that tier 2, tier 3 cities, the kind of rural growth that we were seeing in the past 4 odd quarters, that could now come to an end, right? And the decline from now could take place, and that if that happens, all of these retailers, your bazaar style, your V2 retail, your V-Mart could get impacted because they are highly penetrated in the tier 2, tier 3 cities.
But that doesn't seem to be happening, sir.
But in your
he said this in the interview today, and frankly, I really wanted to listen to the full interview. Very tempted, but
We
there
should
were just so
drop that
many
interview.
things.
yeah,
There were so many
we
things
drop
I could
that.
not manage it.
Yeah.
And please drop the KYC as well, because for context, it was actually both conversations are mutually exclusive and very interesting. So he said that last 2 years rural was difficult, rural demand was poor. Despite that, we've done this kind of growth. At the start of last year, they guided for 50 new store openings. They did 74 in the last year. And they are not shy to shut stores as well. They are saying whatever doesn't make us money, we'll shut it.
Yeah.
We don't want to delay.
But
store
V2 is
shutting.
learning from its earlier one.
Yes.
You know,
What?
there's a learning which they have gone through, right? They went through the entire process. They had to sell it off, and again they started right? V-Mart.
So it's a fascinating story. I'll take 2 minutes to cover it, and I told
Yes.
Mahima this on Friday. I don't know if I told you also.
Which one?
The founder, Mr. Agarwal, has polio. He started off as a photocopy person working in a photocopy shop. 300 rupees per month reportedly is what he was making at that time. Okay. Then started his own shop, garment shop. Did that for 15 years. Thereafter started Vishal Retail in 2001, if I recall. Listed it in 2007. Blockbuster listing. Most subscribed IPO. This Niraj sir told me this when I told him this story. Most subscribed IPO of 2000 in 2007, most subscribed IPO in history of India at that point of time. Thereafter, because of 2008, debt had mounted up in the books. They weren't able to service the debt, so they had to sell the brand. They sold the brand Vishal, which is now 60,000 market cap, crore market cap company. And he started afresh, V2 Retail. Started it afresh, calls it a more prudent way of doing retail, and is now at 6,500 crore. He's guiding for 45 to 50% growth for the next 2 to 3 years. Says he will do 4 to 5% PAT margin. If those numbers add up, the 90 times earnings that it's trading at right now will actually be 20 times earnings. Can you believe that? And they will double store count after FY27, I'm saying.
Double store. They've
Between
said that
FY27 and FY30, they will double store.
Correct. They've said that 600 to 700 stores by FY30 is what they'll add.
And they will add 100 in the next 2 years. They're currently at 189. So they'll double store.
And they've said that they'll up the guidance of that 100 stores.
Correct.
So, yes.
Correct.
And what is the geography they're working on?
They're tier 2, tier 3 cities. Penetrated in
हमारे पास पड़ा है, सब data पड़ा है.
In the sense, so when we are
of
comparing
KYC.
basically Bazaar style and V2, look at the geographies as well. Whether they
Odisha, UP, and I'll give you the exact numbers. But
so
Odisha,
almost the same kind of geography, kind of geography.
Bihar, UP, Odisha, सब बोलता हूँ मैं आपको एक मिनट. सब निकाला हुआ है data. Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah, so that's something which is important. The next big one is Trent, which is expected.
Trent,
right?
yes, it should come anytime now.
And what's the expectation?
Trent, let's see. I mean, they've said 25% growth this year, so it should be around that mark. But I think I don't know. I mean, because they've said they've done such a significant. They've seen such a significant amount of growth so far. Last FY25, they clocked a growth of 39%. I don't know how Street will take a 25% growth as. So that is something to keep your eye on. And secondly, I think Trent, what I really want to know is how lab-grown diamonds is doing for them. They've not yet commented anything. They have their AGM today, by the way, at 3:30. Not sure if anybody will go up and ask in that particular AGM. But I think lab-grown diamonds पे क्या commentary आ रही है, that is something interesting to see. Star Bazaar पे क्या कर रहे हैं और आगे, because Star Quick is something that's picking up for them. These are the avenues. Of course,
Star Quick
Zudio
is the quick commerce
for Star Bazaar.
Star Bazaar.
Yeah. And of course, Zudio is their focus right now. They've said they've also said that they'll go ahead and penetrate in tier 2, tier 3 cities now. So that is also interesting. And they've said that they will not.
Ticket size is larger than
much larger. I mean,
under 1,000.
Under 1,000, but for example, these are 300 average selling price. I don't think Zudio might sell some t-shirts or something.
This guy said also कि उसका जो gross margin है वो 55% है versus competitors. Competitors' gross margin is 200%. Theirs is 55. So they are like, competitors can't compete with us. So maybe
yes.
Vishal and all can, but Vishal and all in size are far larger than him. So this guy has the advantage that he is maybe 5-7 years behind a Vishal, and therefore you have the better tailwind. Now I'll tell you store counts: 189 stores, 75 odd stores are in UP and Bihar.
Okay.
26 are in Odisha. These are the three biggest.
Okay.
So out of 189, around
100 odd.
almost 100 are in these three states alone. Almost.
So
100.
almost it's mirroring in that sense, right? Means Odisha, Bihar, West Bengal, your
Yeah.
Chhattisgarh,
Your
Jharkhand,
yes.
UP. Uh,
Where we have more
the
rural
eastern belt of
concentration per se.
UP
Yes.
basically.
फिर Jharkhand, Karnataka, MP, and Assam.
Okay, so
Those are
let's
the
look
states.
at other topics which we are supposed to do today. You have Nifty metals rally.
Oh,
Upside
that was amazing yesterday. What a move by the metal index. Yesterday, the markets were tough, but you saw the Nifty metal 1.5% higher.
Yeah.
Yes.
And raw material costs coming off is the tailwind.
Yes.
Likely, is it the China factor at all? You look at macros more. Do you see China? I was speaking to someone, I'll give an example, to an analyst who has gone recently to Hong Kong for a metals conference. Indian analyst from an Indian brokerage firm who's gone abroad, saw it, and he said the tezi that he's seeing in China is amazing. That's what he told me. I don't want to say more, but that's what he net told me.
So
तेजी बहुत है चाइना में, और अगर वो तेजी कन्वर्ट हुई next 3 to 6 months में, so it's really, of course, then the only beneficiary here is metals in India.
Yeah, that's true, but what will happen is that it will reduce the imports which are getting dumped into the Indian market.
Yes,
and that
will give the spur prices
prices
realization.
And the coupled with the fact that the raw material prices are also cooling off in that sense. Your coking coal and other prices.
Yes, power costs are
coming off. So in that sense, it adds margin to many of the domestic companies.
Yes,
like a Tata
coal
Steel.
Costs are coming off. That's bad for Coal India, but otherwise,
yeah, but coal costs in general also globally also is coming
off. Yes. So all of that should help metals, and that's what's fueling the rally. In fact, I would urge you to go maybe 2 months back. India market close, we had Manav Chopra of Nuvama, who had come and said कि metals में ऐसी तेजी आएगी. This year is the year of metals. He said the metal index will go from 7,200, 7,500 approximately at that time. 30% returns is what he was penciling in on metals.
Could be. The kind of the entire metal cycle is in such a way that if your raw material prices go up and prices stay stable, then the kind of cash flows that it generates in that cycle is much higher.
Yes.
And then it goes into a peak and then it tapers down.
So he said 2025 is the calendar year of metals. I'll try and give producers that video. Maybe they can drop it in the comments, and that maybe helps you get.
What's happening to Nifty PSU Bank today? It's down.
It's rallied also a significant bit. So and when you're looking at the numbers, both the growth numbers of Indian Bank and PNB, they don't seem to be so good. In fact, Citi's estimates I was reading, which you sent me in the morning, was 2% sequential growth they were penciling in. It's coming at 1.3 sequential. Now, maybe it's just a quarter and maybe it's a quarter lag. But nonetheless, right, अभी आपका guidance है कि तुमको 10 से 12% growth करना है. अगर तुम first quarter में ही sub 10% करते हो, right, YOY, which is what PNB has done, doesn't look impressive, no, on paper.
So tell me one thing. It means, okay, PSU banks are not doing well because sub 10% growth which is coming in. But do you see the similar trend for private banks as well? Because now in the next 2 days, we'll see private banks also coming out with these updates.
No, but in fact, CSB has declared numbers today. 32% growth YOY is what CSB has done.
In advances?
In advances. Yes. And gold advances 36%. The 36% is
gold
very, very solid.
Let's look at X gold.
Okay. But why so, sir? They have a very large, in their loan book, a very large part of the mix is gold. That's why I'm
saying. Let's look at X gold because gold prices have gone up.
True.
But even X gold will be 25% plus. My guess is that because 36%.
But what about the other private banks?
अभी तक वो आया नहीं है. So we'll have to wait for that data.
Do you expect
So I'm not expecting this kind of growth number, obviously, because CSB is relatively smaller and has a better reach and better record, at least over the last few quarters. But I think larger private sector banks will, the expectations are tempered, okay, and it's not going to be a quarter where you're going to see a major disappointment, in my opinion.
Do you expect above 10%, below 10% growth?
No, above 10, YOY above 10 कर लेंगे मेरे हिसाब से.
All private sector banks.
All private sector banks. उसमें कोई सवाल नहीं आता.
And this trend for public will continue because
excluding HDFC, of course, because HDFC the last 3 quarters has done nothing. So I need to caveat that. Sorry.
And similar trend in public banks, because you're not seeing growth there, and public banks compared to private banks are still expensive, right?
PSUs are cheaper than private sector banks, but my sense is that growth, at least in PNB and Indian, wasn't very impressive. Indian was okay, but PNB wasn't very impressive. So some of the larger PSU banks will trail in terms of what they are expected to grow versus their growth. My sense is that.
So let's go quickly.
And sir, the index has also rallied. हमने भी बात किया है इस पे. We've spoken enough about the PSU banking index. So
let's quick review of Nykaa. Price fall of 4%. Pre-IPO investor falling. Is that the only reason, or you can see some kind of? They also come out with numbers.
They'll also come out with numbers, but I think Nykaa has not disappointed in the last quarter, and it shouldn't this time also. I mean, the kind of growth guidance that the company has given already in their investor presentation, full year presentation, I don't think business update. I think the only overhang right now is this: the early investor, Mr. Banga, exiting around 2.7 odd percent stake.
But ideally, it shouldn't make a difference to the company, because that trade happened in an in a separate window of a block deal.
Got completely absorbed.
Got completely absorbed, and it's not. And even though it's at a discount of around 4% or something, it was not in the secondary market, so the influence should not be there much, right?
Yeah, so Samit and me were speaking in the morning, and we both felt that the stock ought to recover, but it's not recovered till now. At least we are not seeing much of a recovery.
India-US trade talks. I think it's going to be
the big discussion point.
Yes, and it's going to be a big weekend which is going to be there, I think. And I think we have the first tranche of that. An initial announcement will come in after July 4th. That's what we understand.
Yes.
So I think Monday is when the markets are going to, and is that the reason why markets are also cautious ahead of that?
I think so.
Especially after what they did in Vietnam.
Yes, 20%.
Zero taxes for US goods, but US will charge 20% and 40% for direct and indirect imports.
Yes. So I mean, I think it's anybody's call. Yeah, you need to.
I need to. Sorry.
But this is anybody's call. So I think it's very difficult to determine which way this will go. But my sense is India definitely versus other countries has the upper hand, right? Because I mean, just the relationship is quite strong.
Yeah. But which are the sectors we should be watching out for?
Pharma.
Autos.
IT pharma is, I think, the key. And auto. But auto's seen a bit of a rally also.
But what we are understanding is that auto components may not get the incentive which they have. We are asking for, and some of the labor intensive sectors are going to get impacted.
Yeah.
So India is pushing for more access for labor incentive sector or leniency there. But okay, let's take the questions first.
No, I think we have a couple of appreciations for that. Satya CK is saying this show and KYC are excellent. Thank you so much, Satya. We have Varnit Samaya, who's just said R power. I don't know.
Okay, she I think Varnit wants to know about R power.
About R power, you have a view?
No view on that.
Okay, and Senko. Mahima just went. We could have had a great view on Senko.
Yeah, we'll try to get
her. Just see if Mahima can come back, and then we can give a view on Senko, because her view on Senko will be important. But JBYA, we'll get you an answer on Senko nonetheless. If not today, we'll get it for you maybe on maybe tomorrow on the show.
Yeah.
Himalay Sharma, love the show. Please give your view on Adani Enterprises valuations and future demergers and our infra. Should I add or do SIP?
Oh, I don't have a view on Adani Infra.
And technically, we shouldn't have a
We
view
have
on it.
no, yeah, because it's not tracked much. Though in the past few years, I think there has been some debt reduction which has happened in that company. From a Adani enterprise point of view, with caveats that NDTV is owned by a company which is whose parent is Adani Enterprises. I just wanted to give you an understanding that yes, it's you know uh, it's a company which incubates new businesses and pushes and then demerges to unlock shareholder value. I think what they have already said in the stock exchanges is about airports being the next one, which will be unlocked in 27, 28. And that's something which everyone is waiting for. Then over and above that, we have the new energy and the data centers business, all emerging businesses which are in Adani Enterprises. So you need to look at that company from a long-term perspective of how value unlocking and future businesses are going to perform going forward.
Can ITC be, Mrinal is asking this, can ITC be considered the most undervalued large cap FMCG? Other than the ever present dangers of increasing GST on cigarettes, is there any other negative trigger?
No, means the biggest problem with ITC is that cigarette is growing at a nominal rate of 6 to 8%. That sense, but FMCG is a business which is could be dragging the valuation there. When FMCG comes in the other category, other FMCG category for ITC there, because return ratios are much lower for them, and it's in line with what other FMCG companies are getting valuation at this point in time because of the kind of lack of discretionary demand and other stuff which is there. Yes, there's always an overhang of GST which is coming in for cigarettes and others. It needs to be seen, how much will it be for some of the uh, for ITC, especially if there is some rationalization of rates happening. They're trying to remove 12% rate, and that would move out. That will be either shifted to 5 or 18. So we need to see all those things, how FMCG companies will be impacted going forward because of that.
Yeah, but it's a definite risk for ITC, and it's a large risk.
And it's a risk which comes during budget or during GST. These are the sin taxes which will come into play for many of them.
Yeah, appreciation post for you, sir. Sadanand Sinha saying, great fan of IPO Adda.
Thank you.
And MP Jain, isn't there an intense competition in retail? There's no moat in the sector.
Yeah, it's actually the competition is to get a pie of the wallet. Simple as that. Discretionary spend, and now you have uh, private labels coming into the markets in a big way, and every retailer is now retailer as well as retail format is trying to bring in private labels. In fact, even quick commerce is having a retail segment in that sense, right? So yes, it's becoming more commoditized, and that's why the margins are going to be hit. There's no moat as such. The moat as such would be more of which is the category that you are catering to. So if it's like a bazaar style, which is see 300, 350 kind of category which you're looking at, then there is a then your supply chain and your gross margins have to be in that format. If it's a Zudio format, which is a sub 1,000 rupees in tier 2, tier 3 cities, then your supply chain and your entire raw materials have to be in that format. So those are the things which are going to be a big driver for many of them, many of the companies there. Otherwise, distribution is not going to be a moat any longer.
Got it. Now, with regard to my 2 cents on retail.
Yeah.
The sense is that Indian market is deep, right, sir?
Yeah.
And therefore, if you are able to go deeper and you are able to tap into customers and you have the proven formula to do that, that's a moat. Wouldn't you call that a moat?
But it's changing. That's the whole thing. It's changing very rapidly.
Of course, it is.
Point is that if you put it in context, then your trend is a good example of it, right? We started off with West Side, which was seen to be upper middle class premium kind of brand, which is there. Then they went in for Zudio. with the same quality which they're providing in there, but the price points are much sub 1,000 rupees. Now you have another uh, uh, model which is there of V2, which is in 1,000 you have 2 to 3 items which is coming in.
Yes.
Right? So it's now turning into us a commodity with who has a better supply chain of providing it at what margins which is there. It's not about any longer about models and all. It's about all about supply chain which is there. The more efficiency you bring in supply chain, the more just in time, the more churn in designs that you bring in, the better.
And it's also about backward integration,
Yes.
cutting costs at the back end. Are you manufacturing? Are you having someone else manufacture? So all of those will also play its role, I guess.
Yes.
Satya CK, take on GeoJit Finance. Do you have a take?
No, I don't have.
No, frankly, nor do I. But I mean, I have someone I know who uses the services of GeoJit and who isn't exactly the most impressed. So, I mean, would I want to have a view on a business like that is also a big question. The other one is, what will be the impact of AI on the overall economy? Will it be a net positive or negative in the short term? It has the capacity to bring down white collar jobs a lot, which will start an economic downturn. Yeah, financials asking this question.
Yeah, I know it's a very interesting one, right? For
Yeah.
IT companies, at one point in time you had employee additions as one of the parameters to judge whether what kind of growth they are going to do. Today, they have moved away from that kind of parameter, and that reflects the entire role what an AI would be doing to the industry, right? You you no longer can be dependent on a metrics like employee addition for your revenue growth. And that's what technology, machine learning, AI, and other cloud computing and quantum and other things are going to bring in. Now, will it reduce your jobs? Yes, there would be some reduction at the lower end of the hierarchy where uh, the skill set may not be there. Uh, does it increase the potential or opportunity? Yes, it increases, because if people are able to upskill themselves, then there's a you become a very big skill geography for anyone who wants to come into that. So we've seen that kind of thing happen in India, and I think it's a transition. In next 3 years, you will see that transition happening. So don't there will be some redundancies in jobs, but going forward it will be positive.
My view is that, and this is purely
companies revenues will grow.
Yeah,
Irrespective
correct,
of whether
correct. Yes, so it's positive for larger corporates who can implement AI faster and better. Second, when I'm looking at our newsroom and trying to understand how we can integrate AI into it, and we've discussed this a lot of times. And the biggest problem that we are facing is with data integrity. We're trying to pull out data, but that data isn't necessarily correct every single time. A chat GPT, a Gemini are not able to throw it the kind of data that we want them to throw. The kind of questions we are asking, they're not able to correctly answer it, which is what the concern is, and which is why some jobs will still will it'll take some time for AI to get there, where some jobs are concerned. But in the meantime,
it's all about data integrity at the end of the day. If you and you need those kind of specialist jobs to figure out whether the data is fine or not.
Yes.
In that sense, because it's picking up from open source and it's circulating and giving you. So maybe it may not, the AI role of AI may not be as open source as it is now. It would be more focused in sourcing, and then you may be able to do much better. But that's a long time.
Correct. Yes, and for certain jobs and profiles where labor is required, that will not get impacted by AI, of course. But the more consulting based jobs where you're just sitting and putting in data, that may get redundant. Where you're not using your human mind to apply the data in a better fashion, that will likely get disrupted, in my opinion.
Could be,
and that will have a negative impact on the economy. So if you are playing that theme, big corporate will definitely be better off with AI. And so from an investor perspective, friendly, but from a people perspective, may not be as friendly. I agree with financials with what you're saying. So I agree with you. Okay, Sadanand Sinha again. Bravo, guys. Great show. Sajeet sir, your view on Sagility, Afcons, and Seagull. Seagull is newly listed IPO, but Seagull, we've done a KYC as well.
Yes. And you have
Tanvi
dropped the
has
KYC.
dropped that
The
KYC.
KYC.
Yes, Tanvi has dropped that KYC. She told me she's dropped it. So maybe you want to look at it, but you want to give a view, sir? Sagility, Afcon, Seagull.
Yeah, I think Seagull. We have spoken about Seagull as well, right?
We have. It's around 5,000 crore in market cap. It has large amounts trapped in working capital, which if it were to unwind, then that would really help the company.
Cash basically.
Yeah.
So it's still, I think, in the infra space, which is there. I think doing pretty well in that sense, right? It's getting pretty much.
There's a large order which came in, 1,200 crore.
1,200 crore.
And the top line of the company is sub 4,000 crore, if I recall right. Or maybe 4,000 around. So therefore, that 1,200 crore order is huge. And the execution is just 3 years from now, maybe 32 to 36 months. But that's a chunky order to execute in a single year. So you'll likely see that translate. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. You have a view on Afcons and
Afcon is doing well. Afcon is also into road and infra projects, so they have doing pretty well in terms of the kind of orders which they are getting. But again, you have, when you are investing in these stocks, do have a look at the kind of order book they're sitting on and what is the kind of duration for execution of these orders. Many of these projects require enough of equity or cash in hand, and once sometimes you get stuck in that because of the kind of cost attached to that to the debt which you're taking for this, for working capital and others. So please have a look at how these companies are doing. Infra wise or company quality wise, these companies are good companies in that sense.
Yeah, it is. Why is ABB down so much? Any idea?
I think ABB Global has come out with a muted guidance, and then and that's, I think that's a overhang which is there for ABB as a whole. And I think their own numbers in Q4 were not so impressive in that sense, right? The order book addition was not so not so healthy. I won't say healthy. It should be, it's a muted one which was there. So they were not able to. There is some issue with respect to a lot of orders which they get from the parent, and the parent order book has come down, and that's also impacting ABB in that sense.
Okay, healthcare players, Max, and this is Warren Buffett asking this question, so interesting one. By the way, on ABB was Roshan. Thank you, Roshan, for that question. High quality medical care, healthcare players, Maxell, Medanta, Aster, even Apollo for that matter. We spoke with Apollo yesterday on the demerger and everything that's happening. But is there a 5 to 10 year view you have
on
hospitals, healthcare?
That's another sector which will almost double or more than that in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes,
because of the kind of healthcare growth which is happening. We are under-penetrated with respect to secondary and tertiary healthcare. Means primary, yes, the government looks at it and we have all those things, but secondary and tertiary, which is advanced healthcare, is something which is now growing. And with more health insurance coming into being, you'll see a lot of more expansion. In fact, if you're looking at, we should drop that Apollo interview which Tamanna did yesterday. She's speaking about the kind of growth and the additions that Apollo itself is doing. In fact, Apollo, once the demerger happens, its margins will go up from the current level, because currently the health tech company is dragging down the margins for them. So that's something which is anticipated now. That's a 2-year timeline which Ms. Reddy had given us of 18 to 21 months for the entire demerger to take place. So I think Max is doing well and is expanding number of beds. They're going for a lighter model, I think, if I'm not wrong, not the built-in model, but a management contract kind of model, which adds to the middle line or an EBITDA and cash flows and profitability for them in that sense.
I had spoken with Rainbow Children's Medicare.
Yeah.
Very interesting company, worth a look if you're looking at the healthcare segment. I also would urge you to look at some of the smaller names. And also look at valuations, please, because valuations have really run up in this healthcare and hospital space. So please be careful of valuations when you invest. While we're giving you advice, or we're giving you, this is not exactly advice, what we're giving you is just our view with regard to how the space is doing. But do apply it correctly. Tejas Gambhir, could you share your views on REITs and InvITs? REITs and InvITs, Tejas, we had called a buy-side analyst on India Market Close maybe last week, if I recall right. And we had done a full-scale interview with him. Why don't you listen in? And we'll drop the link as well in the comments below. Preves Denpro has rallied 20%. Valuation good enough for KYC. We'll look at that. We'll surely revisit it.
It's a small company, Pravesh.
Thank
it's
you.
A small company, but Hersh, you should have a look at it whether it meets the MCAP.
Yeah. Outlook on City Union, next 12 to 18 months maxed out on growth or still some steam left? Maxed out on growth, maybe not, but on valuations looks expensive in relative terms. So have a look at that, or be cautious
for
on
a mid-cap private sector bank.
Yeah, with its set of issues, right? And the growth doesn't seem to be outstanding. It's just about 15% growth on a very small size. You want to look at that as well. There are some banks which are growing extremely fast at a similar valuation and with better asset quality. You might want to look at those as well. Now on financial, and sticking with it, Roshan, love how I was just looking at JM Financial for the past couple of days. Harsh just dropped the KYC yesterday. Thank you, Roshan. I still like it in spite of the low rating though.
Why did you give a low rating?
No. So this is where people get it wrong. The ratings on KYC, sir,
is based on 8 parameters.
Are based on 8 parameters. If, say, for example, all parameters are great, but just the valuations are extremely expensive. Say it's trading at 500 times earnings, right? I can't give it less than 7 because all the other 7 parameters are all great, right? So what one has to look at is that you look at each parameter individually and see whether it fits your bill. The overall rating is just for the purpose of trying to kind of revise all that we have been through. But otherwise, what you want to look at is valuation, as you well know, is one of the most important parameters. If it's trading at 500 times earnings, even if it's a 7 on 8, you would typically be cautious with regard to that stock. I wouldn't say buy or sell, but you'd be cautious despite it getting a 7. So please look at it very, very objectively. I mean, we do all of this for you, but look at it from a perspective that even if it's a 7 on 8 doesn't mean that it's bad, and even if it's a 3.5 on 8 doesn't mean it's really, really bad, right? Either way, you have to make a judgment based on the parameters and explanations which are given within the KYC video.
But talking about KYC, you're trying to do a KYC with the Dream Folks guys, right? It didn't happen. It didn't go through.
So
but disruption happening in
but
this
it was
sector.
Fascinating. When I was doing the research on Dream Folks, it's fascinating. The margins were 13%. Right? This is a business of them running what do you call lounges in airports.
They don't run.
It started with that.
No, they don't run lounges. What they do is that they provide access to lounges.
Okay.
So
they tie up with banks to give access.
If you are an airline or if you are a bank, you tie up with Dreamfox and they give you access to lounges. So they get a fee for every customer that goes in.
Right.
So people who run lounges are companies like TFS.
Okay. Which is going to list now.
Which is the IPO is coming next week. They are available. They have 14 airports and more than 350 odd. QSR. They are a travel QSR and lounge company which is there. What they are now doing is, and that's a disruption which is happening to their industry, to Dreamfolk's industry, is basically they're going directly to the same customers. So instead of going through a Dreamfolk, they're going directly to an airline and saying, okay, I'm going to give access to you for special access, or I'm going to customize an access to you for your first class or business passenger, or for your card passengers, debit or credit card passengers, and it could be different services for a different level of card which you have. And what it eliminates is that it brings down the cost for the bank, because the bank is now looking at increasingly, because a lot of lounges are getting used by card users. So it brings down the cost for the bank. It improves margin for a lounge operator, and it's a win-win for both of them. And even today, I think
So
Adani.
Dreamfolks had a margin of 13%
Yeah.
till 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
It fell to 7,
Seven.
and now it's at 7 and 8, between 7 and 8%.
So that impact is coming.
It's and they haven't been able to explain in detail as to why their margins can't recover. All they are saying is we'll go into new businesses and we'll get margins from there. This is a 1100 crore market cap company who claimed that they are a monopoly in the lounge business.
So I'll tell you what happened in the last 2-3 years, and this happened in the last 18 months or so. In the 18 months, you have a lot of competitors coming into the market, which opened up. So earlier, it was only Dreamforce. Then you had the Diamond Pass, the Tiger Pass, or whatever, those companies which are coming in, and they are providing same access to customers. If you are a member of multiple things, and you will get lounge access. So not just the card companies, but companies which have royalty programs, they are also coming in through those into this entire business, and that's eating away their moat. The moat was what? The traveler who's coming into the airport, and that is moving away, and that is one of the reasons why they're not able to their revenues have been hit, the margins have been hit almost half now, and they're not able to. They have to change the model in some way, in that sense.
They can't change the model, sir, because competition has come in a big fashion, is what I understand.
And now,
it's too late for them to change anything.
And not only that, it's now direct access which is there, right?
Yeah.
So lounges are giving direct access to customers.
Yeah.
And which basically means that the lounge just have to have a tie-up with the respective banks and other stuff, other people.
Yeah.
To do it.
I'll show you the shareholding as well. FI has held 11% in March of 2023.
Yeah.
DI is 9%. Promoter holding was 67%. The public was only 12.5%. Now, 65% promoters, 1% FI. They've sold 10%.
Yeah.
DI is 3.5%. They've sold 6% DIs. And public 30%.
13%.
This is going to be a company, in my opinion, where the public is going to be holding this stock all the way till it tanks, because competition has come in such a big way, and the promoter coming in and saying, and the promoter coming in and saying that or complaining that competition is coming in a big way. Well, your entire job as CEO and MD of any company is to build more moats. That is your job. That's your only role in the company.
When I was trying to do research on this company, and I was getting confused between Dreamfolks and TFS, because they also said, oh, we are into lounges and QSR, and I was under the impression, like you were, that they provide lounges, right? The Dreamfolks provides lounges. So the first question I asked him, how is it different from a Dreamfolk? And they said, we do the lease with the airports, and they are the traffic. They divert traffic to our lounges and QSR.
Okay.
That's what they said. So, which basically means they are the intermediary between the customer and the lounge and the QSR. Basically, the QSR is different because anyone can go and have. You have seen every airport a food mall which is there, and you can. That's a QSR operation for them. But the intermediary is now losing because technology is and innovation is taking directly. So you are going directly, and you're that 20-30% which the intermediary was earning is now getting distributed between the direct service provider, which could be an airline, which could be a card company, or anyone else, and it's adding to the margins of these guys, TFS. So TFS is sitting in a margin of 32% for FY25, which is there. Its IPO is opening, I think, 7th, and price at the upper end, it's 1,100 rupees is a price which is coming in, and almost 15,000 crores of market cap.
So, I mean, this is 1,100 crores of market cap. It's like tiny in comparison to a TFS.
But it has lost a lot of market cap. It was not 1,100 at that.
I mean,
at peak, it would have been double, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it could have been triple also, and still would be a fraction of what TFS is technically. I'm just pulling out that data. Well, at its peak, it was 4x of what it is today. So,
So
around 4,000
4,000
crore.
crore.
At the very peak. This is July 2023. This is frenzy level. And look at the amount shareholders have lost. Please be very, very careful, guys. I mean,
And there is
point being,
yeah.
just because you see a moat doesn't mean that the business can be valued at any price and that you must buy it. No, be very clear on what the moat is about.
Look at what disruptions are happening in consumer
Correct.
sector.
Yes.
How tech is disrupting the entire chain.
Look at things like paints. I mean, high ROC business, buy at any price kind of businesses getting disrupted.
So
What is
our
this?
last
This is a
question,
very
our
small
last
one.
question is on Suraj, is from Suraj, which basically is asking us our view on the CCI case on Asian Paints. Well, it's an investigation. It's a complaint made by I think Birla Opus that Asian Paints is undertaking uncompetitive strategies in the market, and I think that too, as and when that comes in, we will have a look at it. But I think for now, the bigger challenge for Asian Paints is to retain the market share and the margins. And I think more than margins, I think the market share is what they're looking at.
Perfect. So completely out of time,
yes.
frankly. So guys, thank you so much for joining. That's all the time we have. We'll let you go.
Yes, and see you tomorrow.
See you on IMC.
Yes.
See you on IMC.